Is concoursing fun anymore? I made up a word, in case you guys can't tell. The word is concoursing, and it means that you go to a concourse event so that you look sophisticated, and I think it makes you seem sophisticated if you go to a concourse. Tell me if you guys agree or not. But I was thinking about this last night, and I realized that concoursing isn't fun for me anymore. It used to be a lot of fun for me. I used to be really into it, and I think that concoursing has gotten so expensive, and dealing with the crowds of people, if there's anything, like, I would actually pay more money to deal with fewer people. But then you end up with like a Quail Lodge scenario where you have all these people that think the same thing, and usually those people are assholes. So you end up being around a bunch of assholes that actually don't want you there and were paying hoping you would go away. So I'm not sure if how that works out. I think it's better to just go sit in the woods or something, you know. But in all fairness, I kept asking myself this question: do I actually like going to concourse events? Do I enjoy it still? And the answer that I came up with was not that much. But it's one of those things that just has to exist in order for me to have something to do every year. So when did it go from being something I was excited about to something that I just do because I would feel weird if I didn't do it? Here are the pluses about concoursing. You get to run into your friends, and you get to run into people that, in my case, might be following my work and might have a potential interest in acquiring a Classic Mercedes that, and let's face it, you know, if we're responsible individuals, even if it's just for a few years, all of us would have a lot of fun having a Classic Mercedes. If we're responsible enough to take care of it, just like a dog. Dogs are no fun if you can't take care of them. So it's nice to meet people. It's nice to see people I know. It's nice to hang out with people that I like. But at the same time, concoursing has gotten to this point where you end up spending a lot of cash to go to a concourse. You end up spending a lot of energy waiting in line. I hate waiting in line. You do a whole lot of nothing. You just sort of trudge through the endless rows of over-restored classic cars. And by the way, this might be one of the things, we'll get to this later on, one of the things I really don't like about concoursing. The endless, expensive rows of cars, and associating with a bunch of people who are either wealthy or pretending to be wealthy that you don't know. It's almost just like going for the sake of going. And I realize this, like, I've known this about myself for a long time. Some of you may understand this as well. I have an interest in cars. I do. I have an interest in cars, but what I like is I like finding stuff that nobody knows about, that's like sort of not in a setting, right, that you had to pay to be in. As soon as I have to pay to see a car, or pay to see some of the idiots who are associated with the vintage car hobby, and I'm not talking about all of you, but there are some real idiots in the vintage car hobby that make it really difficult to deal with. Suddenly it's not fun anymore. Like, I want to actually go see the car when it's like covered up in dust, sitting in somebody's garage, or forgotten about, or taken apart in pieces, and sort of lumber through all the parts and pieces of the project and admire it from afar and think, how can this actually be a car again? I don't want to pay what used to be hundreds and now is thousands of dollars to stare at an over-restored car and be like, oh yes, here owner, let me get that little unkissed spot on your butt and cover it with my saliva. Because it is an ego stroking kind of thing. Like, if any of you ever shown a car to concourse before, and look, I've done it, okay? I've been there, all right? There's nothing that I hate more than people stroking my ego. Because when people stroke your ego, and here's some advice, if you're young, if you're really young and you're getting into it, when people stroke your ego, it's because they want something from you. And people don't stroke egos for fun. They do it because they want something from you you're not going to be able to give them easily. I find the harder somebody strokes my ego, the nastier they are when I try to help them and they don't get what they want immediately. So that's one of the reasons I don't show cars at concours, because I don't want to attract that breed of client to my business. The kind of client I want to attract is the person who has their parents' car or their uncle's car or their godfather's car or their neighbor's car, somebody that they really cared about in their life. And what they have left of this person is their Mercedes. Ultimately, that's like my ultimate customer. My other ultimate customer is, I saw this car, I felt like I could give it a great home and a great life because I know it's a great car and I know you can help me do that. Super, you know? There are a lot of people who genuinely love their cars. And I find that when people have a big car collection, they're used to showing their cars off at these bow tie kind of events that cost hundreds of dollars for a stupid ticket so you can walk around and admire somebody else's iron, it's not fun anymore. It just isn't. It's not fun. And I don't want to attract that person. I don't even want people to perceive me as that kind of person. People are like, oh, are you going to the Amelia Island Concourse? And I'm like, if I tell people no, then they know that I'm more of an Uncle Tony and less of a Jay Leno. Not a slight on Jay Leno. Jay Leno, actually, I've met Jay briefly. He's a really nice, down-to-earth guy. But what I'm saying is you'd associate Jay Leno with a concours event because he's been the grand marshal of a couple of concours events. Go and speak at the event. He's got some very expensive cars. He's got a huge car collection. And when you think of the Uncle Tony, if you asked Uncle Tony what he'd rather do, Uncle Tony would probably want to stay in the shop working on his car. And in my case, that's what I'd rather do. Like when I look at what it costs to insure my cars, and by the way, thanks Hedary for raising my prices to pay for all your concours events. I still have to have insurance. I still love Hedary. They're still a great company. They still do a great job with their insurance work. I'm just saying, I feel the concours events in my wallet. And I can elect not to go, but I feel like I have to go because I want to see, it all boils down to this. I want to see my friends. This is a very, very lonely life because 90% of the people you interact with want something from you. And about 50% of the people that I interact with, I need something from them. That is, I need work. I need money. I need to take care of my family. I am here because I need a job and I can do this. But what I don't have to do is go and, kiss people's butts at concours events like I used to do, trying to get that customer relationship. I tried, before all the Florida concours events got too big for their britches, when Lake Mirror was a nice, cute little show in Lakeland and you could find a parking spot, when at Amelia Island a hot dog was $8, when Bill Warner actually ran the show and it wasn't owned by a big media brand like Hedary, it was fun. And I would go there, I'd say, maybe I'll meet a customer. Maybe somebody with a really nice car will give little 25-year-old Pierre a chance to adjust their air suspension or, tune their carburetors. Never happened. I can count on one hand the number of customers I have who show their cars at concours events. Those 5 customers are just about the only 5 people I've met showing a car at concours events that I actually like. Dennis, if you're watching this, my friend Dennis, who has a 300 SE, you're probably my favorite person who would actually show their car at a concours. And you're a rare breed of individual who has not let it go to his head, and I appreciate that, admire that about you. But the general consensus of a person who shows their car to concours is that they're maybe a little bit insufferable, or I don't know. And this particular group of people, I used to not criticize them. I used to not make commentary about them, but they're not going to be sending me their cars anytime soon. Okay, let's face it. their cars aren't going to be coming to my shop. You know? Anyway, that's how I feel about concoursing. And if you feel the same way, leave a comment below. And if you're into concoursing and you're going to go to Amelia Island and spend thousands of dollars looking at other people's cars, just remember that you may not have a 300 SL Gullwing, because that's really the only class of Mercedes they show there. You may not have a 300 SL Gullwing. And by the way, I'm not referring to any of the Cars and Coffee events or the Radwood events or anything like that. We're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about the concours. If you've ever dreamed of owning one of those cars, instead take that $100 or so, $1,000, $2,000. Try to give another car a chance. It doesn't have to be a 300 SL. I mean, you could dream, but you should try to achieve the closest thing you can to your dream. So if you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Of all the people whose feelings it's going to hurt, I think it's probably 0.1% of my viewers. They're probably all MBCA leadership. These people are used to me hurting their feelings. I'll see you guys in the next video.